This is a cat about to enter our yard. He only has two things on his mind: pissing on my stuff, which him and his friends have done a lot over the past few years. But worse is he wants these guys who've only just left the nest. However, this is what we have waiting for him.
Now, to get your head around how all this came to be, I'll step you back a bit.
The year was 2012. There I was in the backyard, smelling various leaves because I find flowers overly fragrant. Bird nest. Then to my surprise, I noticed a family of brown honeyeaters had actually established a nest and laid 2 eggs in a garden I'd made for my daughter's bedroom window. This was pretty awesome, as these tiny birds are normally pretty elusive, especially when nesting. So I took the opportunity to set up a camera and microphone so my kids could see the baby birds hatch and grow up live on the living room TV. The mum bird tended to the nest maintenance and incubated the eggs. However, a few days later, in the cold of the night, a cat entered the yard from the roofline. It found the mum and smashed the eggs to the ground.
In the morning, I found the broken shells. The almost fully developed birds inside had body dragged along the pavement until they couldn't go any further, and the mum was missing. This obviously sucked, but mainly because I already had the solution and could have stopped it. How? By kicking the cat in the dick.
Nah, only a year earlier, I'd established a cat repellent improvised out of random shit from around the house, like this thing and that stuff and wires, which was fairly well received online at the time. And this setup was simply to stop neighbourhood cats pissing on my car. I should have had it set up. Admittedly though, this was a fairly impractical solution, especially my upgraded version of it, which required a few hours to reset each time. Now, years later, there's a lot of bird activity in the yard. A family of New Holland honeyeaters have built a home and raised some chicks, Drogsy and Razza as I've named them. However, their parents have built a nest low to the ground on the edge of what seems to be Australia's busiest cat thoroughfare. The birds, who haven't naturally evolved to handle the introduced threat of cats, need protecting.
Since my early videos, I've had lots of fun ideas for repellents in the future, many suggested by you guys. And no, I don't mean the ones who suggested I use my chopstick arrow trap or the concrete fidget spinner, or by aerial relocating them with the cooler drone. That would be pretty funny though. But this time I needed to go back to basics.
This setup had to be reliable, autonomous without having to be reset each time, cheap, it's under $15 in parts, memorable for the cats to hopefully create some behaviour change, look kind of scary and cool, but could also be built by you guys too if you wanted to, with no prior skills in building stuff, because building stuff is fun. And that's what we've got here.
I made a separate video on how to make your own, but I also wrote an ebook with more detailed instructions so anyone could do it with little to no tools or skills required, which also supports this channel too.
So where are we up to? The trap, or more accurately, training device, has now been deployed. So how's it worked so far? It's been epic, an epic roller coaster of drama, which is just mostly cats being really sad about getting wet.
But check out those videos too, if you haven't. Seriously, there's only one video you watch this year, make it those 4.
It is now the final showdown. It's day 13. Drogsy and Razza are almost ready to leave the backyard. It's their first day outside the nest, and they've been learning to fly. However, being outside the protection of the nest is putting them in even more danger until they can get to higher ground. But things have also got worse. Not only is the cat invasion advancing from the north and south, but the ongoing rat invasion from the east grows stronger. These not only pose a threat to the young birds, but also to our tangerines, which are delicious. Additional defences have been created for that, however, that's a story for a future video. So in the birds' first day outside the nest, they've been discovering their freedom. They spent most of their time doing some backflips and crashing into shit and testing out the structural integrity of various sticks. They also learn how to take a dump for the first time on their own without mum being needed to carry it away in her mouth. Compared to their parents, their feathery coat still looks like when you drop something and it rolls under the couch, so it isn't doing much good for them in the flight department yet. It's now the late afternoon. Mum flies in. Okay, it's time for bed, boys. If you've got any fecal sacs, you're on your own. If you're still hungry, I'll spew in your mouth in the morning. The sun has set, and the nest now sits empty. In the bottom of the nest, a pack of slaters clean up the kids' old popcorn and biscuit crumbs. Drogsy and Razza are sleeping for the first time in their big boy bed. I don't know where mum and dad are, They don't share all their bird secrets with me, but the fledglings were unfortunately very easy to find. They are now perched almost at ground level, putting them in a worse situation than before while they're in the nest. But it's all good, Drogsy has glued a leaf to his face so the cats can't see him. If you can't see it, it can't see you. That's science. But just as an additional backup, we have the cat repellent standing by. It's been a fairly cool, quiet night, and it's now the early morning. It looks like a new, chunky-looking visitor has dropped in to drain their bladder and hunt down a second breakfast. It looks like he's wearing some knee-high socks for the occasion. Chunky Knee-Highs has gone around to check out the rubbish bins. Always exciting. He's done himself a urine spray on the car tyre, and is now moving on to the gate. He's checking out the menu board. It all smells good, and it looks like fledgling birds are on special. Wipe my nose here. Just a quick glance to remember whether he definitely peed on the car. Yep, all good. He's walking in to try and find himself a seat, but then he's remembered, I forgot to piss on that other car, so he's reversing out. His thundering physique strolls over to have a look. He's like, I'll just give it a face grind first to prepare the surface. Now spray it with my butt juice. And you know what? While I'm at it, I might drain the old cat snake on the other corner of the car too. Yeah, that's it, right on the car cover and rim. Alrighty, time to hit that breakfast buffet. He glances up, flexing his back roll. He's thinking, I missed the fun of scratching the paintwork with my claws to leap over the gate. But hey, cardio sucks anyway. This step here is enough exercise. Hey, that camera wasn't here last time. Wonder what that's about. Oh, His warm body against the cold morning backdrop has triggered our infrared motion sensor and given that 2-inch thick coat of fur a drenching. He has sprinted off to the rear fence, looking back thinking, what the f just happened? Was that a dog? Initiate laser eyes in 3, 2, 1. He retracts his back arch and takes a slow motion sit. He is carrying a lot of water weight now, and he's already pretty exhausted from that step earlier. His laser scan reveals nothing. He's thinking, maybe it was that tripod camera thing? No, maybe it's that moth. Nah, night butterflies have never wet me before. Must be that tripod monster thing. He gives the cat repellent a good hard stare down, hoping his laser eye photons will disable the cat repellent's magic. However, little does he realise, he has sat himself down directly in the cat dome of shame, which is rendering his powers useless. He takes a super slow motion glance to the rest of the yard to assess his options. As much as he hates walking, or any other type of movement other than eating, he's going to have to walk the long way home. Just after he has a bit more of a rest though. Now let's check out our photo replay. The floodlights have startled him, and he's deployed his claws with the plan of getting the f*** out of there. But there's an explosion of water heading straight for that thick furry armour. His face looks pretty complacent though, a bit like how they used to pose for photos in the early 1900s. And then contact! His fur is so chunky though, it's contained almost the entire volume of the initial spray, but it's now overflowing and even starting to leak from his tail. In trying to evade the water, he's turned it into a bit of a handstand race, running out of there on those front legs. He's then flicked on the switch for kangaroo mode, and his rear legs have firmly embedded their claws into the concrete. He's really trying to accelerate a lot of mass here. With water still streaming from his overflowing fur tank, he gives the plants a little water on his way out. The birds have made it through the night unharmed. However, the concrete wasn't so lucky, with kitty burnouts being etched permanently into the pavement. It's now the later, early hours of the morning. There's some movement around the cars. Oh, it's that bloody Minecraft cat, Stampy. Looks like he's been out hitting the beers hard all night. He's rolling in to get some sleep. Nah, he's f***ing stacked it. Having that last round's always the one that gets you. Oh, Stampy has respawned. That's convenient, and he's gone straight back in there. Where's he going? Oh man, he's pissing on the car. Looks like he's done. He's made it through to the backyard. And nothing, I guess because he has no soul. Then he's decided to dismember himself and have a nap plank style. Oh no, he's rejoined the game. And he's gone through and has sprayed him. 360 degree exorcist style head spin and faceplant. Looking at our photos, the water has given him a nice fist bump there. All he's thinking is, And over he goes. He tries to deflect the water with a high five. It's no use. Oh, hang on. Despite a night on the Terps, he's managed to respawn again. He doesn't know what he wants. Maybe a drink from the hose. He just knows he has to get to bed. Yeah, this'll do. We are all reset for another night. It's a little before midnight, and we have glowing eyeballs strutting their way across the yard. And what a surprise! It's Chunky Knee-Highs again! He's gone straight for the far side of the car for a sniff, possibly a piss maybe. I can't really remember what he did because I stopped taking evidence photos. It got kind of weird having my phone gallery full of pictures of urine stains. He's most likely pretty hungry after missing out on one of his 15 square meals yesterday, and he's coming straight over to the gate. Hang on, he's approaching with a little bit of caution. Maybe some kind of brain connections have actually formed and he remembers what happened last time. But he's coming closer. It looks like he wants to risk it. He's a little bit hesitant, but he's keen to munch on some of those baby bird bones. He gives a quick left and right laser eye scan. He's thinking, maybe I just imagined it last night. The f***? And it's got him in the exact same spot again. Yep, of course, run straight for the pole. That'll provide the softest deceleration. He sprints through the cat dome of shame, and then he's just going to take 5 minutes in the backyard, looking around, trying to process whether it was deja vu or if it actually happened twice. On the replay, we can see in the frame, just as the spray triggers, that Chunky Knee-Highs is a deer in headlights and has a split second to rethink his life choices. And then an atomic explosion of water. On that note, if you've ever wondered why it overexposes like this, it's due to the floodlight switching on for the stills camera to capture colour photos at a high shutter speed, so there's no motion blur. I'm probably going to experiment with different setups in the future. I'll do a separate video about that tech stuff sometime as well. But as for some of the comments, geez, come here cat farm. This still beats how I was capturing it in 2011 using a capture card in a second-hand computer. The quality was so bad, I needed a bucket with reflect tape on it so the camera could actually see cat movement. Anyway, onto our still photos. On our first frame, we can see the water has made contact in the exact same spot. Because he's still likely damp from the night before, his chunky wadding has absorbed it instantly. We can also see he has dropped another kitty concrete burnout, and his tail is inflated to maximum expansion. Now he's just showing off with a one-handed handstand. Yeah, nice, but still not as good as Tabby Green Collar. And like always, he's decided to take a lot of water with him in case he gets a bit thirsty later on. His water vapor trail continues to follow him, plus he knows we're not impressed with his moves, so he's going for a right-handed single arm handstand, shifting his weight forward. This is looking much more balanced. I'm going to score this a 4.5 Blackie McLaser Eyes out of 5. However, he could actually be cheating here. He could be doing the old wheelbarrow race with an invisible partner trick. Looking at our next photo, I was actually incorrect before. We are now at maximum expansion of the tail, which is a complete feather duster transition. His back legs are still levitating, and he's out of there. Also, watching the photos back in quick succession, I have a theory that maybe due to the size of his chunky fur, that it actually generates its own gravitational field. So these water droplets, I'm pretty sure they are in a permanent orbit around him. It's just before 4 AM, and the eye sparkle of a furry beast can be seen crossing the garden. It's been a long night for him. His bladder is full, and his stomach is empty. He's walking around the far side of the car in his hunt for a public restroom. But which cat have we got here? It looks a bit like Chunky Knee-Highs, but it's not. He has the same thick Santa beard, but his socks are pushed way down. And also, he's one thick kitty. Honestly, I can't even wrap my mind around what some of these bulges are. He's probably being stuffed full of feed at home and then chowing down on some native wildlife every evening. Is it just me, or does Mr. Backlumps here also appear to have legs that are like 10% shorter than a regular cat? Kicking up more dust than a horse, he's heading straight for the gate. Hunt first, pee later, I guess. He's taken a turn straight for the aviary, but luckily our pet birds are inside at night, but he must have been here before in the day. He strolls over like he's going over invisible steps. The repellent has spotted him and it sprayed him right in the ass. He's launched out the way, but then spun around. His fight or flight instincts have glitched, switching him from the default get the f*** out of there mode into fight mode. But there's nothing to fight. He looks around for a way out, no good, so he sprints off. No! He's completely out of breath, so he's just gonna stroll for a bit. No, you know what? Walking, that requires too much effort. He's thinking, there's no way I'm gonna fit through those bars. They're for regular cats. I'm just gonna stand here, look around for a bit. Maybe someone can carry me. Why am I wet too? Oh crap, did I face grind my own piss again? But then things take a turn. They're not looking good. He's heading for the fledgling's bedroom. He's going in behind the garden. He's looking around. Oh no, what's he doing? With his tiny reserve of energy, he's launched over the fence and he's out of the yard. The birds have remained safe. Now let's check in on our photos. He's managed to walk in. His girth barely able to squeeze through the first opening though. On the initial spray, his body registers that there's some new information being received in the butt region, and his brain responds with, "F***, I need to do something about this." So he does the obvious thing. He has a brief sit down. His fur is taking a decent load of water, not quite matching the absorbent capabilities of chunky knee-highs, likely because Mr. Backlumps here is all meat. In some kind of on-demand adaptation, his tail has grown an additional paw to assist with his traction during his escape. He opens his mouth and takes a huge gasp of air for what's about to come. Forward movement, an overweight cat's worst enemy. To assist in his acceleration, he's also found himself a brilliant foothold to get some additional traction on the concrete. A cloud of water is still being towed along in his wake. And then in a surprising feat of athleticism, he is stretched out and managed to pull off a move I like to call the catazoid, which is basically a cat trapezoid. He's noticed a pretzel crumb and he's thinking, might come back for that later. He's now up to speed, but in order to turn around to fight, his enormous mass is proving pretty hard to slow down, and he does the cat slide.
Cat slide. There's a cat slide. There's a left slide. There's a right slide. It's a cat slide. Yeah, the cat slide. Cat slide. Cat.
Then in this last frame, it's pretty apparent that he isn't too happy about being attacked by an invisible water beast. Then, like all good thick kitty visits, he's left us with some decent acceleration burnouts. Also, his handbrake turn has left a long scar in the concrete as a permanent reminder to Mr. Backlump's cat slide. It's now the morning of day 15. Drogsy and Razza are still in the backyard. Oh, look at this fluffy dude. He kind of looks a bit like a snow leopard with a banana glued to his face. They have now moved to the deeper back garden and are way more active, so I was lucky to find they were still here and alive and well. They are finally old enough to leave the yard. Drogs is really keen to stick with Mum and Dad on their insect hunt. Mum flies past with a big bit of encouragement, and with that, Drogsy does his pre-flight head bow, shows his brother his bird butt, and he launches off. Well, kind of, he flutters down onto the shed roof, before following Mum into the neighbour's thick foliage, which is fortunately a cat-free backyard. Meanwhile, Razza has a bit of FOMO going on. He can hear the others having fun in the higher trees. He finds his way onto the thinnest stick possible, and then stares at me in a way that says, "Oi camera dickhead, don't tease me online about not being able to hold onto thin sticks." He crouches down and switches on launch control. And with an explosion of tiny bird power, he takes his final launch from the backyard, leaving a snapped branch in his wake. He goes over my head and off into the higher trees. Both the kids are off to establish their own territory and learn their parents' ways, like how to tweet properly, where to dump turd sacks, and how to build nests in dodgy places.
He can for the first time see beyond the fence. It's a big world out there. They don't know it, but millions of people out there have been watching them grow up and were rooting for them. I can't protect them anymore, but if they ever come back to start their own family, I'll be here and ready. Unless I'm busy because I'm sidetracked building something else and I don't notice their nest. But you know, if I do notice it, I'll be ready. Unless...
So in the end, I'm still left wondering, does this repellent work effectively? The birds survived and the cats left the yard immediately, but we did have some repeat visitors.
Do they remember and don't care about being sprayed? Or maybe these cats are just individually stupid. Perhaps all cats will still come back at some point. But I'm also curious why none of the original cast have come back except for 2. Is it because they eventually remembered to stay away, or have they all since died as a result of being outdoor cats, which is known to give them a shorter life expectancy due to disease and threats like cars? The only thing we do know for sure is, I don't do doors. Where to from here? Well, I have a little treat. There's just one more cat. A cat that justified his own dedicated video. He was too good to be combined with these other peasant cats. Follow me on all my social medias so you don't miss that. But, as mentioned, I'm fairly randomly giving away some of these prototypes I made and used while photographing the ebook. Like to a young 4-year-old fan here and his dad, if you could use one, simply drop a comment and make sure you're subscribed, click the bell, so you're in with a chance. I'm saving a couple to give away in future years too, so people who may discover this video later down the track have a chance to get one as well. I'm Craig Turner, YouTube channel is Turner81. Catch you guys soon!
Looks alright from this end.